Today, we're going to find out if the Tigers can pull a shocker and land one of the most explosive offensive recruits in the country. They also had one of their most important 2025 targets on campus, George McIntyre, the number 2 rated quarterback in the 25 class. Let's get this thing started. LSU fans, we need you to hit subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel. We're almost to 10K. We need you with us. Hit that subscribe button for me. All right. Let's bring on Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. Before we get into the big 5-star visitors, it's respect your decision season, Shea, and we are starting to see decommitments happen across the country. But this weekend, highly coveted LSU linebacker commitment, Xavier Atkins, did the opposite. What happened this weekend with Xavier Atkins, even though programs like Arkansas, TCU, Colorado, Utah, A&M, and others are all trying to flip him?
Yeah, this is a kid who committed early on to LSU, Josh, and he's from Louisiana, North Louisiana, right on the border of Arkansas. But he moved to Texas, the Houston area, to play his senior season. And when he got really starting to boom with offers, he was committed to LSU at that point. And he said, hey, I want to make visits. He made a lot of visits, checked out a lot of different schools you just mentioned. But A&M was the one that really jumped out as a repeat visitor. And the Aggies started to trend. And people predicted flips, Josh, but as time went on, he buckled in and said, you know what, I think I want to go back to Louisiana. I feel comfortable with LSU's pitch to me. That's where I want to be. So one of those things where he never came off the commitment list, but everyone said, hey, look, this kid may flip any day now. Now Xavier's come out and said, nope, I'm firm, I'm sticking. And boy, this is a big one. A recent 4-star edition on On3 who was having an unbelievable start to his senior year at linebacker.
Yeah, a big move to solidify his commitment. Now, let's go out to East Texas and talk about 5-star athlete Terry Bussey, one of the most explosive players in the country, is going to make his decision this Thursday. Now, he's the number 2 rated athlete in America, trending heavily to A&M on the recruiting prediction machine at 95%. Shea, did LSU come through with the late push that they needed to make this thing competitive on Thursday?
I think to make it competitive, sure. I would say that A&M probably would not feel 95% confident that they're definitely signing him come Thursday. Now, that being said, let's set the stage here, Josh. Remember, at the end of the summer, Terry Bussey was going to pop to A&M. That most people felt that was about to happen, but he talked to coaches at other schools. They said, hey, at least give us a visit before you commit if you're really interested. He said, all right. So he's now delayed that decision until, like you said, later this week. That gave him the first few weeks of the September month to go ahead and visit schools. He visited Bama for the Texas game, now visited LSU for Auburn. They rolled out the red carpet here. You mentioned it. One of the best athletes in America. They had him sitting down with coaches on offense, coaches on defense, coordinator on the special teams, Brian Kelly. Everybody was making the pitch that if you come to LSU, you're going to be able to play whatever position that you feel like best suits you. Most schools like him as a DB, obviously, which is a big need for LSU right now. I can't get inside Terry Bussey's mind and tell you exactly what he's going to do. I do know that going into the week, or at least going into these visits, A&M was considered the team to beat. They'd gotten him to campus the most times. It was going to come down to Alabama or LSU hitting a home run on that final OV weekend. So, Josh, as we talk today, we're in that dust settling mode from visits. Then we get a feel for maybe which way he really is leaning. Until I hear differently, I'm still going to lean A&M. But LSU's got a puncher's chance here.
All right, well, it's still early in the week. We'll see what the rumor mill draws up for us when it comes to Terry Bussey's decision. But let's talk about some other elite prospects on campus and switch to the 2025 class. George McIntyre, one of LSU's top quarterback prospects on the 25 board, was in Baton Rouge this weekend. Now, I kind of see this shaping up to be an LSU, Alabama, Tennessee battle. Shea, how did it go with George McIntyre this weekend, and what are your sources saying on where the Tigers stand?
I think everyone I've spoken with agrees with you, Josh, that it's LSU, it's Tennessee, it's Bama. And look, this was a guy who, coming out of Nashville, has visited LSU multiple times in the offseason. He was in Tiger Stadium a year ago for the Alabama win in overtime by LSU, where they stormed the field. He called it the best environment he had ever seen. And then he gets back for the Arkansas game, which turns into the sleeper game of the weekend, a back-and-forth affair where Tiger Stadium was rowdy. They played a big part in it. So he got to see two really great games in Tiger Stadium. He's not announcing before the end of his junior season or anything like that. He actually shared that news on your show that he would wait until after his junior year. But he had already gotten to visits at Tennessee, LSU, and Bama, and we're, 4 weeks into the season? Think of this. If you're just trying to pull some positives for LSU, LSU's got a top 5 passing offense in the country right now. Jaden Daniels, a top 5 passer in America, and the number 1 total offense in the SEC. Meanwhile, no one would have predicted that the teams sitting down at 10 and 11 in the SEC are Alabama and Tennessee in terms of passing. Both those teams have been kind of bitten a bit as they transfer out of that era of a year ago into new quarterbacks and systems for obviously Alabama quarterback-wise who's playing. It's just one of those things where if there was a way for LSU to continue to create an edge by what happens on the field, how LSU's offense has looked so far this year, passing the football compared to those two schools certainly gives LSU a couple of notches. Doesn't mean that's where he's going to commit, just means that it's certainly putting LSU in a good light.
Now, Brian Kelly's not messing around when it comes to quarterback recruiting. George McIntyre is the number 2 rated quarterback in the 2025 class. In next home game, LSU expecting to host the number 1 quarterback in the 2025 class. That's Bryce Underwood. Shea, where does LSU stand with the number 1 quarterback in 2025?
Yeah, you mentioned it kind of there at the start. They've had you could call it 1A and 1B, or you can call it 1A and 1A. But Bryce Underwood and George McIntyre have been LSU quarterback coach Joe Sloan's top 2 targets for long before they even grabbed rankings, and they end up being the number 1 and 2 overall guys. Both are elite. Both have offers from the who's who. We saw Prime in Colorado get Bryce Underwood out for a game, a week ago, the Colorado State game. It was obviously a great one. Penn State got him in for a blowout win over Iowa. Now LSU will get him for their next home game, which is Auburn. It's still a couple of weeks away here. That being said, it will be Underwood's first visit for a game. He visited 3 times in 4 months to Baton Rouge this offseason. That's notable for a kid from Michigan who's taking unofficial visits. Now he gets to see a game day environment. Like I said, he's been to the Colorado State game, been to Penn State, been to Michigan plenty. This is LSU's chance to really show him what a Saturday is like. And they've done a really phenomenal job recruiting him. I firmly believe LSU sits in his top 2. I think Michigan is the other team. I do know that you got Colorado, you got Penn State, you got Bama who are scratching and have gotten him to campus. But at the end of the day, I think the relationships that the 2 quarterbacks at those schools have and the comfort level the family has with those schools have those 2 as the teams to beat.
All right. So LSU fans want to know, Bryce or George, who does the Tigers have a better shot with as it stands today? A lot of recruiting left, but as it stands today.
That's a tough question. I think I can make good arguments for both as to why they might be the leader. And again, with LSU playing as well as they are, I'll just say it one more time, a top 5 total offense in the country. And because of passing, top 5 in passing as well, Jaden Daniels dark horsing himself back into that Heisman race. That is big for quarterbacks. And LSU's got DeCorian Moore, a 5-star committed for next year. They had Caleb Cunningham, the number 2 receiver in the country, on campus with McIntyre this week. So those guys see it. I don't know, man. Instead of that, I'll offer you this. LSU will take whichever one commits first. It does not matter. Not going to turn either of those guys away. So Bryce is announcing in January TBD on Bryce January TBD on George. If in, they're taking him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bryce's commitment's coming up in early January. We're only about 4.5 months away from that, whereas George McIntyre, like you said, probably a decision before his senior season. So a lot of recruitment left with these quarterbacks. Shea Dixon, thank you for joining the Inside Scoop today and dropping some LSU knowledge.
I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.